And that's me, that's Chris Trout. That's my introduction for myself. And I was trying to kill time because I've done these speeches for you guys for a while, and I have some things to talk about, but I really, you're probably getting tired of hearing about it. News websites, alerts, American Express sent me an alert and an email telling me about the changes in the credit card processing. And what I would like you to think about is, yep, thank you, sir. And everyone should have these chips in their cards. Now, here's the thing. I know very few, I think it's like 60% of the cards out there have those chips. In this room, I can think of 3 extremely clear people who need to be abreast of the new credit card changes. And let's call it retail. Can you guys think of anybody in this room who we would call retail?
No.
One. Very good.
Jim.
And Jim. Angie, yes, but she does. She has a portal she uses. But yes, exactly the 3 I was thinking about, because they are the most clear. There are other situations, like Kathy, where it's not quite as cut and dry. Mark, not quite as cut and dry. And John Thomas, not quite as cut and dry. Now what it is in the change, and this is all that affects you, is if somebody hands you a card in person that has the chip, and I'm friends with a guy who pulls out his wallet, and he's got 5 cards and only 2 of them have the chips. So apparently they're not doing a very good job of getting them out there for everybody. But if they hand you a card in person that has a chip, and you do not have the piece of hardware that can read that chip, should they ever come back and say the activity was fraudulent, you're now on the hook as the merchant. That's it. They've really overcomplicated this in so many different ways. But that's the only time it's going to affect you, is if in person, card with chip, somebody goes back later and says it was fraudulent activity. Because the American consumer, we're used to Amazon, we're used to eBay, PayPal.
Are you doing questions yet? Because I know you said last time you were going to answer questions.
I could.
Referral. So this is the questions
Sure.
that this person had. She has the square attached to her phone. So tell me what, like say, because of that chip, and I hand her my card in person, she uses the swipe. Okay, the swipe card or the square. But I said, you need to talk to a guy that I know, because of, he does credit purchase services. But she had these 3 objections, or thoughts. They'll make me have a minimum. There's minimums involved. Or then she says, there's more fees, and one other thing that I can't think of it. But can you tell me how to answer someone who has that square, how they could benefit by talking to you?
Absolutely. Square, to begin with, is a security nightmare. Excuse me. They're a security nightmare. This level of encryption they use when you swipe your card was already what we classified as 1-star, whereas the banks don't want that type of information floating over the airwaves. Heavily encrypted, 2 different times. We use 4-star encryption. US Bank has a reputation to uphold. Square is Squarespace. They'll build your website. But these card readers really, they're flimsy little things. They get the job done, but the fees that we charge are based on security. There's a statement fee for doing our job, and yeah, that one you can't get around. But then there's if you're going to use it over the phone, we've got this highly encrypted network that we use. In fact, when you use it on your computer, we've got a highly encrypted portal that can hold on to numbers for you for a long period of time, so you can go back and rebill existing clients free of charge. Now, all that comes with the level of encryption we use. Square will also take your macro data and sell it to advertisers. So what they do is they will hold on to macro data, and it always really trips me out where I never give a merchant my email address, but when I use my business card, it gets emailed to my business address. I get a receipt just emailed straight to me. And you wonder, how do you have that?
That's right, I did that.
Yep. And they email it directly to you, which some people think is a benefit, I think is a bug, because, Big Brother is watching. No, it's just they have that information, which they then turn around and sell to third parties. And then the final thing is, there is some fees involved, but when you get to $3,000 a month in card transactions, it's a wash.
She's a hairdresser. I doubt if she gets, well,
She very well might.
yeah.
You know, they rent out space, and then some of them do make a healthy clip. You know, and I hear it very often. Square got it good with them. Maybe they're right at the price point. Maybe they're not as worried about. I would really like people to start saying, you know, you have Square. Can I cut you a check? Yeah.
Thinking about that now.
The other thing about Square is really what our profession does and why there's fees is we are guaranteeing your money the next day. We're getting you this money tomorrow and 2 days from now at the latest. And the reason why we do that is because if it was up to American Express and Visa, you wouldn't see that money for quite some time. They want to make sure that they have the liquid assets to do it. I'm sure they're not hurting right now, but they want to make sure that they stay lucrative, and so they're waiting for somebody to claim fraud. They want to, you know, they take their sweet time getting that money out, and so what we do is we actually give you a loan for the same amount, short-term loan for the same amount, and what we do is we take the full amount from Visa and MasterCard when they finally get around to paying us, and we charge you, you know, 1 point blah 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 percent for that, to do that. So the fees involved are the fact that you can set your bookkeeping by doing business with a real credit card processor. With a real credit card processor, you know your money's coming tomorrow. Square, that we hear the nightmare stories about, we're investigating your claim, and really, they might be investigating it. Maybe they just don't want to pay you because it was a big charge and they know they can't get it back if not. But then they say, well, we're investigating. We have 60 days to do that without you having any recourse whatsoever, so they can hold on to it for 60 days. And the company that sells your macro data is also investing your money while they're investigating. So they know they're not going to pay you for 60 days. So they're going to hold on to that money and make some microtransactions in New Jersey and try to make more money. Because like I said, the security actually is pretty atrocious on those Square readers, and anybody can get one without putting in too much information. So
it's more of a testimonial, but Chris has been working with Glenn and I over the past 6 months with this new chip requirement and everything. And I tell you, Chris came in and compared our rates to what they can do, and quite honestly, Chris said, you're fine right where you're at. So, you know, that was really powerful to me, to made me more confident to refer people to him. He's not just looking out for himself or the company he works with, he's looking out for the client itself. So, you know, if you're in a good spot, he'll honestly tell you. So feel free to give him some biz.
And it's absolutely true. And they got another deal. They, you know, farm out, get quotes. They got another deal that the numbers didn't add up. And we warned Glenn. Glenn is on top of it, very shrewd, as everyone knows. But we basically turned around and said, keep what you're doing now. You've got a sweet deal. And that's the deal I try to be for people. I want to be the last account anybody ever has. Because when people come in, I mean, he's got it perfectly dialed in for the amount of volume he does, the way he's taking cards, and then, you know, I'm always there if you need if you have questions and you can't reach a guy about dipping. We call it dip and tip. But I guess people are getting frustrated already with how long it takes. We are a McGriddle society, and so people are like, the very few places, you know, last time I spoke, I said 25% of retail business fronts were ready for the change. Feels like it's still 25%. People who didn't change and weren't panicking are just not going to panic. So I think we're going to see those come out a lot slower because we no longer support the older devices. The older hardware, when it breaks, we no longer will come out and fix it. We say, all right, well, it's time for you to upgrade, which I think is an appropriate way to do it. Gas stations have until 2017, and then all gas stations, because those are big apparatus, they have to redo a lot of it, so they have a little bit longer. But I think as you see this become more and more common, you're going to see slightly longer lines, and you might even see the preponderance of Apple Pay. What's the other one? Apple Pay, Well, I know, I can remember Chase came out yesterday, yeah, and Chase was like, they're getting into that. Because everyone's looking to be the winner. Only 4% of people will pay for anything on with their phone, with that like cool commercial where they just hold their phone up, sends a Wi-Fi signal, and it reads it. 4% of people have the desire to do that. So we'll see when everyone's leaving their card in for, yeah, there you go. Wait, Bank of America has it?
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I have Bank of America.
There you go.
I gotta get on that.
Boom.
Any other questions? I mean, I could just keep going.
Is there a device, and what kind of device, if you're like me, where you got different phones, a mobile device, you gotta take a credit card?
Absolutely, it's not quite, the new one's not quite out yet. I'd be happy to give you an older one, or what I think if you have do you have a partner, your one-man shop?
Now, I have a couple, some contractors, subcontractors that work, and so we would have to have one too, possibly, so it just depends on
It does depend. I mean, at that point, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. You may want to just go with a web portal. It's that web portal that's the one I was speaking about, where any internet connection, you'd log in, and it has the available option for free of charge to hold on to some of your good clients' numbers. If you find yourself, like if you're in good with a realtor and you're constantly working for Jean, you can just hold her corporate card on file, go in there and bill that. And you can enter it in without there being too big a difference in the rates. We had years and years to prepare for this, and nobody has the hardware. Like we were running low on some of our new hardware, but they're coming shortly, especially for the phone. Notice the square ones aren't out yet either. This change that's been talked about for 3.5 years took everybody by surprise. All of the hardware manufacturers just had no idea it was coming. So yes, of course, it'll be a phone unit, over $3,000 a month. It's very worth your time. Is it free? Oh, but another thing about your friend is there is no monthly minimum with Cutting Edge, and you can leave at any time. That's how confident we are in our abilities to serve you. There's no cancellation, no monthly minimum, and a monthly minimum is just a way for a rep to make money because you don't do any charges. I think that's my time. Does anybody have a yes or no question for me? Yes. All right.
Some of those button cards require that you put in a code when you use it.
Those would be debit. But no, for the most part, it's the same as the old. But now that it's facing you, now that the machine will be right there on the client is supposed to insert it himself, his or herself. Debit's going to be a lot easier for people because they're waiting anyway. They can now enter that, and debit's always the best way to go. Debit's the cheapest for you as business owners. So,
Thank you, Chris.